Westerns did not fade away. They slipped into corners most people stopped looking at. Tubi just opened one of those corners. These are not the loud, famous titles everyone already knows. These are restrained, character-driven westerns that reward patience. If you like tension built through people, not gunfire, start here. Number 14, The Tall T, 1957. This is a western that understands something many louder films miss. Violence means more when it feels avoidable. The story strands a small group of people together after a robbery goes wrong. But the film is never about the robbery itself. It is about who has power in a room and how quickly that power can shift. The central conflict unfolds through conversation, posture, and moral pressure rather than action. Every pause matters. Every line of dialogue is doing work. What makes this one special is how controlled it feels. There is no rush to escalate. The tension grows slowly, almost politely, until it becomes unbearable. The villain is not a cartoon. He is calm, intelligent, and frightening precisely because he understands people. That makes every interaction feel like a test. The hero is not flashy either. He is observant and patient, which turns the film into a quiet chess match instead of a shootout parade. This is the perfect western for viewers who like psychological standoffs more than spectacle. If you enjoy stories where the real danger is saying the wrong thing at the wrong moment, this one hits hard. It also fits the promise of hard-to-find classics because it influenced an entire strain of stripped-down westerns without ever becoming mainstream famous. Number 13, 7 Men from Now, 1956. This film looks like a straightforward revenge story at first glance, but it quickly reveals something heavier. The main character is not chasing justice with confidence. He is chasing closure with exhaustion. The journey feels lonely from the first scene, and the landscapes emphasize that loneliness rather than romanticizing it. Wide-open spaces feel empty, not freeing. What sets this apart is how it treats revenge as a burden instead of a mission. Every step forward feels like it costs something. The film never lets you forget that vengeance isolates the person pursuing it. Conversations are clipped. Trust is thin. Alliances feel temporary. There is an emotional coldness to the film that makes it linger long after it ends. This is a western for viewers who like moral ambiguity. If you enjoy stories where the hero does not feel heroic and the ending leaves you thinking rather than cheering, this one belongs on your list. It fits perfectly here because it is rarely recommended to casual viewers, yet it quietly reshaped how revenge westerns approached tone and character. Number 12, Day of the Outlaw, 1959. This is one of the bleakest westerns ever made, and that is exactly why it stands out. Set almost entirely in snowbound isolation, the environment itself becomes an antagonist. People are trapped not just by guns, but by weather, geography, and their own bad decisions. There is no easy escape, physically or morally. The film strips away romantic notions of frontier life. Survival feels desperate. Authority feels fragile. When an outlaw gang enters the story, the power dynamic becomes terrifyingly unstable. What makes this unforgettable is its refusal to offer comfort. Even moments that should feel like relief are tainted with dread. This is ideal for viewers who like westerns that feel closer to survival dramas than adventure stories. If you appreciate bleak atmosphere and ethical discomfort, this one delivers. As a hard-to-find classic, it earns its place because it challenged what a western could feel like and never softened its edge to please audiences. Number 11, Ride Lonesome, 1959. This is a western that looks simple on the surface and then slowly reveals how carefully constructed it really is. The story follows a small group traveling across dangerous territory with a captured outlaw, but every character is carrying a private agenda. Nothing is accidental. Every choice feels calculated. What makes Ride Lonesome so compelling is how it turns a straightforward escort mission into a study of guilt, revenge, and unfinished business. The film is quiet, but it is never empty. Long stretches of travel are filled with tension because you always sense that someone is hiding something. Dialogue is sparse, yet every line lands with intention. The emotional weight comes from what characters refuse to say rather than what they explain. This restraint is what gives the film its power. It trusts you to read between the lines. Visually, the film emphasizes isolation. Open landscapes feel like moral testing grounds rather than symbols of freedom. Characters are constantly framed against vast emptiness, reinforcing the idea that their past actions cannot be outrun. When violence finally arrives, it feels earned and consequential, not exciting for its own sake. This is the perfect Western for viewers who appreciate layered storytelling and slow revelations. If you like films where motivations gradually surface and recontextualize earlier scenes, Ride Lonesome rewards close attention. It fits the hard-to-find label because it does not rely on spectacle, making it easy to overlook, yet it represents some of the most disciplined Western filmmaking ever made. Number 10, The Man from Laramie, 1955. This Western opens like a mystery and gradually transforms into a confrontation with institutional corruption. A stranger arrives in town with questions that make powerful people uncomfortable. What follows is not just a personal conflict, but an unraveling of an entire power structure built on intimidation and silence. What sets this film apart is how it explores authority. Wealth and influence feel suffocating rather than admirable. The antagonist is not a lone outlaw, but a family whose control over the town is absolute. This makes every interaction tense because justice is not just resisted, it is structurally blocked. The film uses this dynamic to question whether the frontier myth of fairness ever truly existed. Emotionally, the film carries a simmering anger. The main character is calm, almost restrained, but that restraint hides deep personal loss. When the truth begins to surface, the story gains momentum without ever becoming chaotic. Violence is precise and meaningful. Every confrontation pushes the moral stakes higher. This Western is ideal for viewers who enjoy stories about power abuse and quiet defiance. If you like films where a single outsider exposes rot beneath polite surfaces, this one delivers. It belongs on this list because it often gets overshadowed by flashier Westerns, despite being one of the genre's most thematically rich entries. Number 9, The Hanging Tree, 1959. This is a Western that feels unusually introspective, almost haunted. Rather than focusing on conquest or lawlessness, it centers on emotional scars carried by people trying to survive on the edge of society. The story revolves around a hardened figure whose past has shaped him into someone distant and guarded, and the film takes its time unpacking why. What makes this film stand out is its tone. There is a constant sense of unease, as if something unresolved is hanging over every scene. The environment feels harsh, but the emotional landscape is even harsher. Relationships are strained. Trust is fragile. Compassion is treated as something risky rather than noble. The film explores trauma in a way Westerns rarely do. Characters are not just shaped by violence, they are damaged by it. This gives the story a surprising emotional depth. When moments of kindness appear, they feel fragile and hard-won. The film never rushes these moments, allowing them to breathe and resonate. This is a Western for viewers who prefer psychological weight over genre tropes. If you enjoy character-driven stories where internal conflict matters as much as external danger, this one will stay with you. It earns its place here because it challenges expectations and remains strangely under-discussed despite its emotional ambition. Number 8, The Gunfighter, 1950. This is one of the most emotionally mature Westerns ever made, and it feels almost modern in how self-aware it is. Instead of celebrating reputation, this film treats fame as a curse. The main character is a legendary gunman whose name alone invites violence. People challenge him not because they are evil, but because they want the story that comes with beating him. That idea drives the entire film and gives it a tragic weight that never lets up. What makes this Western remarkable is its focus on inevitability. No matter where the gunfighter goes, trouble follows. Even moments of peace feel temporary and fragile. The film constantly reminds you that reputation can trap a person more effectively than bars or chains. Dialogue plays a huge role here. Conversations are loaded with unspoken fear, resentment, and resignation. Everyone knows how the story usually ends, and that knowledge hangs over every scene. The film also explores masculinity in a way that feels surprisingly reflective. Strength is no longer empowering. Skill is no longer something to admire. The gunfighter wants a normal life, but the world refuses to let him have one. This tension creates a sense of sadness that builds steadily until the final moments. This is a perfect Western for viewers who like tragic character studies. If you appreciate stories about people trying to escape the roles society assigns them, this one hits hard. It belongs on this list because it is often overshadowed by louder classics, yet it quietly reshaped how Westerns portrayed legends and consequences. Number 7. Bend of the River, 1952. This film begins as a journey and slowly transforms into a moral test. A group of settlers heads west under the protection of a guide with a questionable past. Along the way, trust becomes the most valuable and fragile currency. What makes Bend of the River stand out is how it uses movement to reveal character. Every mile traveled exposes another layer of motivation and doubt. The story places heavy emphasis on redemption. The guide is trying to move beyond his past, but the world constantly tempts him to fall back into old patterns. When betrayal enters the picture, the film refuses to offer easy answers. Choices feel messy, loyalties feel strained, justice feels complicated. This complexity gives the film a grounded emotional core. Visually, the landscapes are breathtaking, but they are not just there for beauty. The wilderness feels indifferent to human conflict, reinforcing the idea that morality is a human burden, not a natural law. Action scenes are present, but they never overpower the story. Instead, they serve as pressure points where characters reveal who they really are. This Western is ideal for viewers who enjoy stories about trust and second chances. If you like films where ethical decisions matter more than gun counts, this one delivers. It fits the hard-to-find label because it often gets categorized as a standard frontier story, when in reality it offers far more emotional nuance than many better-known Westerns. Number 6. The Furies, 1950. This is a Western that feels almost operatic in its intensity. At its core, it is a family drama disguised as a frontier story. Power, control, and emotional manipulation drive the narrative more than external threats. The relationship between a domineering father and his fiercely independent daughter creates a volatile emotional center that makes every scene feel charged. What separates this film from typical Westerns is how personal the conflict feels. Land ownership is not just about territory, it is about identity and dominance. Every confrontation carries emotional history. Conversations feel like battles. Silence feels dangerous. The film is deeply psychological, focusing on how authority within a family can mirror tyranny within a community. The performances are intense and unflinching. Characters are flawed, stubborn, and often cruel, yet never cartoonish. The story refuses to clearly label heroes and villains, forcing you to sit with uncomfortable truths about loyalty and control. Violence, when it happens, feels like an extension of emotional pressure rather than spectacle. This is a Western for viewers who enjoy dramatic tension more than traditional action. If you like films that explore power dynamics and family trauma under the guise of genre storytelling, this one is unforgettable. It earns its place here because it defies easy categorization and remains far less discussed than its ambition deserves. Number 5. Winchester, 73, 1950. This Western uses an object rather than a hero as its narrative spine, and that choice gives it a unique rhythm. The rifle at the center of the story passes from one owner to another, and with each transfer, the film reveals something new about greed, obsession, and the myths people build around power. Instead of following a single moral viewpoint, the story shifts perspective repeatedly, showing how the same symbol can mean very different things to different people. What makes this film stand out is its sense of inevitability. The weapon becomes a magnet for conflict, pulling characters toward violence whether they intend it or not. The story suggests that certain tools carry consequences beyond the hands that hold them. This gives the film a fatalistic edge that feels darker than most westerns of its era. The emotional core comes from rivalry and unresolved resentment. The central conflict is personal, rooted in family history and pride, rather than simple good versus evil. Every encounter feels charged because the characters are not just fighting for survival, they are fighting to define themselves. The landscapes feel harsh and unforgiving, reinforcing the idea that the frontier offers no moral protection. This is an ideal Western for viewers who enjoy tightly structured storytelling. If you like films where themes are embedded directly into the narrative mechanics, this one rewards attention. It fits perfectly into the hard-to-find category because while it influenced countless later films, it is often remembered more by reputation than actually watched today. Number 4. The Naked Spur, 1953. This film feels like a psychological chase rather than a traditional Western. The story revolves around a bounty hunter escorting a captured outlaw through hostile terrain, but the real conflict happens inside the minds of the characters. Trust erodes quickly. Motives are questioned constantly. Every decision feels unstable. What sets this Western apart is how it strips away certainty. The hero is not noble or confident. He is driven by bitterness and financial desperation. The outlaw, meanwhile, is manipulative but perceptive, constantly probing for weakness. As the journey continues, the line between captor and captive begins to blur in unsettling ways. The film uses its limited setting to increase tension. Wide-open spaces feel claustrophobic because escape always comes at a cost. Supporting characters add layers of moral confusion rather than clarity. No one feels fully reliable. This creates a constant sense of unease that never fully resolves until the final moments. Emotionally, the film explores obsession and distrust. Revenge and money drive the story, but neither provide satisfaction. The psychological toll of pursuit becomes the real price paid. This gives the film a modern sensibility that still feels sharp decades later. This is a Western for viewers who enjoy internal conflict more than spectacle. If you like stories where characters unravel under pressure and morality feels unstable, this one delivers. It earns its place here because it challenges the genre from within, offering tension without comfort and resolution without triumph. Number 3. 40 Guns, 1957. This is a Western that feels bold, aggressive, and confrontational. From its opening moments, it announces that it is not interested in playing by polite genre rules. Power in this story is centralized in one formidable figure whose control over the territory feels absolute. Law exists, but it struggles to breathe under the weight of authority and intimidation. What makes this film unforgettable is its energy. Dialogue is sharp and confrontational. Scenes move with urgency. The film constantly challenges traditional gender roles by placing a powerful woman at the center of the narrative. Her authority is not symbolic. It is enforced, feared, and respected. This alone makes the film stand out among its contemporaries. The story explores what happens when power is unchecked. Loyalty becomes transactional. Justice becomes conditional. When order begins to crack, the consequences are swift and violent. Yet the film never treats this chaos lightly. There is a sense that the system itself is flawed, not just the individuals within it. This Western is ideal for viewers who like confrontational filmmaking. If you enjoy genre films that push against expectations and authority structures, this one feels daring even today. It belongs on this list because it remains oddly underseen despite its influence and audacity, making it a true buried classic rather than a recycled favorite. Number 2. The Oxbow Incident, 1943. This is one of the most morally devastating Westerns ever made, and it barely feels like a Western at all. Instead of frontier adventure, the film focuses on fear, rumor, and how quickly ordinary people can convince themselves they are doing the right thing while committing something irreversible. The story follows a group of men who form a posse based on incomplete information and growing panic. What unfolds is not suspense in the traditional sense, but dread. You know early on that something is wrong, and the tension comes from watching reason slowly lose the argument. What makes this film extraordinary is how restrained it is. There are no grand speeches about justice. There is no heroic intervention at the last moment. The danger comes from consensus, from nods of agreement, from silence when someone should speak up. The film understands that violence does not always come from cruelty. Sometimes it comes from certainty. That idea gives the story a chilling relevance that has never faded. The characters feel painfully human. Some are conflicted but quiet. Some are loud and confident without being thoughtful. Some know better and still go along because resisting feels harder than participating. The film does not let anyone off the hook, including the audience. It forces you to sit with the consequences of action taken too quickly and judgment passed too easily. This is a Western for viewers who want something heavy and reflective. If you appreciate films that challenge moral comfort and leave you unsettled rather than entertained, this one is essential. It belongs on this list because it is often discussed academically but rarely watched casually, making it one of the most important hard-to-find classics hiding in plain sight. Number 1. The Gunfighter, 1950. This is the Western that quietly dismantles the myth of the gunfighter better than almost any other. Instead of glorifying reputation, it treats fame as a trap that tightens with every passing year. The central character is widely known, feared, and respected, yet he is exhausted by it. Everywhere he goes, someone wants to test themselves against his name. The film understands that legend invites violence even when the legend wants peace. What makes this film so powerful is its sense of inevitability. There is no clear villain driving the conflict. The world itself becomes the antagonist. Conversations are tense because everyone knows how stories like this usually end. Even moments of calm feel borrowed. The film uses dialogue sparingly but effectively, letting silence and looks communicate the weight of a life spent proving something to strangers. Emotionally, the story is deeply sad. The gunfighter is not chasing glory, he is trying to escape it. He wants normalcy, connection, and rest, but the identity imposed on him will not loosen its grip. This makes the film feel more like a tragedy than a genre piece. Masculinity is questioned, strength is redefined, survival no longer feels like victory. This is the perfect number 1 because it captures what so many of these hard-to-find Westerns share, a focus on consequence over celebration. If you like films that interrogate the cost of legend and leave you thinking long after the final scene, this one earns the top spot without raising its voice. These Westerns prove the genre was always deeper than gunfights and dust. They are quiet, tense, and emotionally sharp, the kind of film's algorithms rarely surface. If you want a part 2 with even rarer finds hiding on free platforms, say so. There are many more waiting to be rediscovered.